Hello and welcome to Module 7. My name is Delasiasian and this week we'll be discussing power and conflict in work relationship, the role of the nurse leader. The goal of this module is that you understand various theories and the definition of power, describe how nurse leaders can effectively use their power to achieve desired results, analyze the reasons for conflict, and describe appropriate conflict resolution techniques within the work environment. What is power? Power is the potential to influence an individual or group. French and Raven describe 5 types of power. Legitimate power is the type that comes with positions. Expert power is based on having specialized knowledge or skill. Reward power is based on the provision of incentives and benefits to influence people. Coercive power is based on the use of force, threats, and punishments to influence people. And finally, reverent power is the ability to influence others based on a person's strong interpersonal relationship with them. So this week, I'd like us to discuss what type of power we hold in our workplaces and how we've been able to use that to achieve positive incomes. Also, are there any situations in the workplace where the use of coercive power is appropriate? If so, when and why or why not? Remember that coercive power is the use of force, threats, and punishments to achieve desired results and influence a group. Conflict. Conflict has been described as an expressed struggle that inevitably occurs between at least two interdependent parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, and interference from other parties in achieving their goals. Conflicts, like we said, are inevitable and can be functional or dysfunctional depending on the outcomes that they achieve. There are 3 types of conflicts that have been identified in the literature. There is task conflict, which occurs when there's disagreement among a group about a task at hand. Relationship conflict has to do with tension, annoyance, and animosity among people. Process conflict is the disagreement about assignment of duties and allocation of resources. There are different conflict styles. The individual conflict styles that people use are non-assertion, which has to do with avoidance or accommodation; indirect communication, which is delivering information through another person or an ambiguous way; passive aggression has to do with the expression of dissatisfaction in a disguised manner. We see the rolling of eyes in this case. Direct aggression has to do with attacking another person verbally or non-verbally or both. Assertion has to do with delivering messages through the description of observable behavior that prompted the message, the interpretation, feeling, consequences, and intentions. So there are different ways to resolve conflict. The 4 ways that have been identified are the win-lose, where one person gets what he or she wants and the other person does not; the lose-lose, where neither parties get anything that they want; the compromise, where both parties get some of what they want and are partially satisfied; and finally, the win-win, where everyone involved is satisfied. So 7 steps for the win-win approach. First, you've got to define your needs. You've got to decide what you want or what you need from the conflict resolution. Then you share the need with the other person or party you are in conflict with. Remember to use the I messages and choose a suitable time and place. Listen to the other person's needs and find out what the other person wants as well. Then come up with so many solutions, as many as you can. Evaluate all the possible solutions and choose the best one. Implement the solution that you have selected, and then finally follow up on the solution to see if the conflict has truly been resolved and everyone is satisfied. Although a win-win approach sounds ideal, it may not always be possible or even desirable. That is when we decide to use the other approaches. So when do we use the win-lose situation where you lose? When you discover you are wrong, the issue is not important or is more important to the other person than it is to you; when you want to let others learn by making their own mistakes, or when the long-term cost of winning is not worth the short-term gain. Another time where you might want to win is where there is not enough time to seek out a win-win outcome, when the issue is not important to negotiate at length, or when the person that you're in conflict with is not ready to seek out a win-win situation, you might choose to use this method of resolution. Compromise is when the issue is not as important to you, but then you know that the other person will take advantage of your non-competitive approach, so you decide to meet them halfway. Also, when sustaining or maintaining the relationship with the other person is not very important, you might choose to compromise. Finally, the win-win approach is when the issue is too important to compromise. Also, when the long-term relationship between you and the other person is important and is worth saving, you might want to go with a win-win approach. And when the other party is willing to use a win-win strategy, why not? Just go for it. So some of the questions I would like you to mull over in regards to conflict are there any differences in how men and women handle conflict? Does culture play a role in conflict styles and resolution? What role does communication play in conflict management? What is the relationship between power and conflict in the workplace? And for good measure, I threw in this question: what is the value of an apology in conflict resolution? For this week, please feel free to delve into other disciplines for literature or for materials to answer these questions and any other discussion questions that might be raised. Because conflict cuts across board, you might find very interesting materials from so many other disciplines such as business, anthropology, psychology, sociology, and all the other ologies. Just feel free to use any of them. I look forward to seeing you on the discussion board, and I hope we have a wonderful week together. Ciao.